Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. So, earlier this week I did an upload talking about why I think Lion L. Johnson simply has to return to Terra. Why for me that's an integral part of the makeup of his character. His dedication to the Emperor. And as I was going over a few things in the Lion's Return novel, The Lion, Son of the Forest, there was something that really jumped out to me in a way that hadn't quite before. A particular line that could well reveal some intriguing possibilities regarding the Primaris. So obviously minor spoiler warning here for the Lion, Son of the Forest, and it comes about in the moments after the Lion has regained his memory, when he asks his former fallen son Zabriel what the status is with his legion, only to be told the legions were dissolved into chapters by orders of Rabute Guilliman. Guilliman, Lion L. Johnson hisses, his grief abruptly overtaken by blistering rage. Never content with the work of others, he even wanted to improve on the design of our father. I should have dealt with him when he first raised his hand to me on Macragge. Why could it not have been him who fell, instead of Sanguinius? And it's a great rant, seeing the lion temper still there within. However, it's the line snuck in there in the middle of it that really struck me the other day when I was rereading it. That provoked a thought that I hadn't quite stumbled on before. He even wanted to improve on the designs of our father. Now this surely has to be a reference to the Primaris, which is no amazing revelation in itself as we've discussed that before. However, what particularly made me think is the way L. Johnson references it here. He even wanted to improve on the designs of our father. Yes, it's past tense, but it feels more like L. Johnson speaking of it in a way of some kind of absurd notion that was immediately put down, rejected. Again, listen to the way L. Johnson phrases it here. Guilliman, Lion L. Johnson hisses, his grief abruptly overtaken by blistering rage. Never content with the work of others, he even wanted to improve on the designs of our father. Definitely feeling to me like L. Johnson's saying he even wanted, as in he tried. And so that perhaps gives us a little more context to the cover of the Ashes of the Imperium novel we saw revealed a few weeks ago, the first upcoming entry into the Scouring series. Could the argument here between Rabute and Rogal Dawn be Guilliman bringing up his desire to improve the Space Marine template, the eventual Primaris as we know them? It certainly appears, going by L. Johnson's words, Rabute did bring it up, reveal his intent to his brothers, and it appears he clearly faced opposition with it as well, rejection, at least in some form. And of course we don't know how it went down yet, if the Primarchs voted and it passed, if Rabute simply ordered it done and told them it was happening, or if indeed, as it feels like to me in the way L. Johnson speaks here, the idea may well have been opposed and believed ended. However, yet we of course have the Primaris within the current galaxy. We know Belisarius Cawl was given the Sancprimus Portum by Rabute Guilliman to experiment on, and so it raises the very interesting possibility that Guilliman did it anyway, in secret, despite the objections of his brothers. A grand Primaris lie, if you will. And so, if that was the case, can you imagine how L. Johnson would feel when encountering these new Primaris later, realising what Guilliman had done? And of course L. Johnson does meet them later, upon his meeting with Dante. Though L. Johnson doesn't seem to even notice the new size of these warriors approaching him, or at least no mention of it was made, and his mind is too busy whirling in the aftermath, with news that Guilliman is alive after Dante mentions it. And I may be wrong as I haven't reread it recently, but I don't think there was any particular mention made of the Primaris in the Dark Angels Codex. Considering the reaction the Primaris received upon their arrival to the galaxy by most of the Astartes, it's no surprise the Primarchs, at least some of them judging by L. Johnson's reaction here, felt the same kind of outrage. Perhaps the Lion's statement in The Lion Son of the Forest is simply his revealing the folly of thinking anyone could improve upon his father's work. Which is most likely the case, you'd have to say. Him venting that Guilliman's breaking of the legions is just another example of his constant need to meddle, that he can't just leave others alone, even trying to meddle with their father's ideals. However, I do love the idea of the Primaris possibly having been rejected, thrown out by the other Primarchs, only for Guilliman to have given Call the go-ahead anyway. That the whole project was in some way a grand secret and lie. It would add another nice little element of intrigue to the whole thing. However, even if that wasn't the case, it certainly appears, given L. Johnson's reaction, they were not a creation that was wanted. And so it's going to prove very interesting anyway, with the more loyal Primarchs that return, as it appears that it's definitely the case that some, if not all, of Guilliman's brothers were opposed to the Primaris project. Maybe the answers we seek for this are actually upon the horizon, as we begin our first steps into the Scouring series, where Guilliman's plans may well be fully revealed to the new founding Imperium, and more importantly, his remaining brothers. But as always everyone, what do you think? Do you think the Lion's words within The Lion Son of the Forest reveal that the Primaris project may well have been rejected by his fellow Primarchs? Could Rabute have given the go-ahead anyway, in secret? Or did he simply publicly overrule his kin? Or do you think we'll see the vote pass, with many of his brothers actually supporting the idea? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. A huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too? But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.